Now before we get into this video, I just wanted to let you guys know that I had a really good friend of mine join me for this collaboration. A lot of you know him, and a lot of you love him, including me. So without further ado, let's get started. Trust me, you're gonna want to hear this entire thing. Let's begin. I live in Chattanooga, in Tennessee. Every year we go to this music festival called Riverbend on the Tennessee River. The end of the festival is celebrated with one of the biggest fireworks shows in the world. It is hell to get into, or close to the festival on the last day. It's like everyone on the southeast of the United States wants to come and see these fireworks. My best friend, Tara, and I wanted to go find a vantage point that would overlook the river and watch the fireworks. We drove up to this ridge near the river and pulled up onto this gravel parking lot where we found multiple other people that had the same idea as us. Some trees were in the way, and we did notice a trail that went down the ridge. We walked about 40 yards down the trail and came to this camping clearing where we could see this river perfectly. We were talking and waiting for all these fireworks to start when we started to hear something rustling down in the trail. I thought I saw a silhouette of a person move between the trees on down the ridge. Tara had a small keychain flashlight, and she took it out and shined it down the trail. We didn't see anything. We kept hearing rustling and kept seeing nothing. We finally started thinking in our heads that it was just a noise of a squirrel or something. The fireworks started and had been going on for a few minutes when I heard a stick break right behind me. We turned around and looked, but couldn't see anything. Tara turned her light, and there was a man standing literally 5 feet away from me. It was so dark that we couldn't even see him until that light was right on him. It was like a horror movie scene. We immediately started heading up the trail, and the whole way up, he was talking, saying things like, "Where are you going? What's your name? What are two pretty things like you doing here?" We ignored him and kept walking. Then he started getting angry and saying, "Are you listening? You get back here. You know, nobody could hear you scream over these fireworks, and I have a knife. You don't even know my name. Nobody will ever catch me if I hurt you." We started running, and we got to the top of the hill, where there were 2 kids that were playing, and I saw the dad standing further back. I told the kids that their dad wanted them, so they would get close to their dad and stay safe away from this creepy guy. I then walked over to their dad and told him about this man that followed us out of the trail, and asked if he cared if we just stood with him until this man was gone. He said of course, and thanked us for sending his kids in his direction. The man stood at the beginning of the trail and watched us for a long while, then finally went back into the woods. He had been watching us in the woods for at least 20 minutes before he approached us. He waited until the noise of the fireworks began before he came out.
It was September in central Idaho. Autumn had come down to the mountains, and with it, bow hunters looking for mountain goats. My cousin, let's call him Vern for anonymity's sake, is an avid hunter. He's been all over North America hunting various game. Bears in Alaska, wild hogs in Texas, bighorn sheep in Wyoming. But his favorite hunting area was the Lemhi Mountain Range in central Idaho. Our extended family has been hunting in those mountains for generations. We know every river bottom and mountain peak, like many people know their own neighborhoods. Mountain goats are a fascinating animal to hunt. They live well above the tree line in rocky environments. They're sure-footed and can climb near vertical slopes. Hunting these animals requires one to venture into these dangerous areas. You have to be mindful when you pursue an animal like that. One wrong step on a rocky slope, or one loose rock, could mean you're not going home ever again. Vern was an expert mountain hunter. It's something he was born to do. Vern decided to hunt in the Hayden River area of the Lemhis. It's a very familiar spot to most locals, and the area is home to plenty of mountain goats. The first mile of Vern's hike was uneventful as he climbed up the canyon. The air was crisp, and his breath formed like great plumes as he progressed. The sun was just peeking over the mountains when Vern came to a small deer trail. He decided it might be a nice shortcut from his usual route, and took it. A few hundred feet up the trail, he saw something odd pop out from behind a tree. It was a man. He was dressed in a light denim coat and jeans, and was carrying a small backpack. My cousin stopped for a second to get his bearings, unsure of where this guy came from. The man waved to him with both arms. One of them was holding an older style hunting bow. Acknowledging him, Vern waved back. Although the man looked to be physically fine, it was clear that he was emotionally distressed. He yelled out something my cousin couldn't quite hear and waved his arm, indicating my cousin should follow him. Vern didn't get any bad vibes from this man and could tell that he was genuinely in need of some kind of help. He began to make his way up the canyon, following the mystery man. Vern could never gain any ground on this guy. He was always just far enough away that he couldn't talk to him. Periodically, the man would stop, turn toward him, and make sure Vern was still following. Every time he looked back, Vern could see the worry in his face. My cousin did his best to remain calm and keep a smile on his face, unsure who or what he was being led to. It was peculiar, Vern thought as he hiked. He hadn't seen any other vehicles on his drive up to the trailhead. Perhaps he came in over another ridge? What could he possibly be leading him to? He figured one of his hunting party had been hurt and needed help. Of course, he wouldn't have to speculate if the man would just stop and talk to him for 5 minutes. Vern lost sight of the guy just past a turn in the trail. The trail opened up into an incredibly steep, rocky talus slope. He looked in every direction and could not locate the man when he heard a whistle. Looking up, he saw the guy about 500 feet up the rocky slope, waving at him. There's no possible way he could have gotten up that far just in that short amount of time that Vern had lost sight of him. He still didn't feel any fear or weariness about this weird situation. The man was now waving more frantically, practically begging Vern to follow him up the slope. With a sigh and a grunt, he started up the rocks. It was slow going. Every other step caused a mini rock slide and would cause him to continuously lose his footing. Huffing and puffing on the cool, thin air, my cousin eventually made it up to a small landing. It had taken him almost 45 minutes to get to that spot where he saw the man from below. There was no earthly way anyone could have done that scramble up that hill any faster. Totally exhausted and out of breath, Vern sat down on the stone landing. He looked around and couldn't see the man anywhere. As he scanned his surroundings, he saw something odd poking out of a boulder about 20 feet away from him. Walking over to it, he found a weathered boot. 2 boots, actually. Inside those boots, and under the boulder as well, were bones. Vern looked around once again for the man, but he never saw him again. Instead of feeling eerie or unnerving, Vern felt a sense of relief wash over him. These emotions weren't his own. What he felt seemed to come from all around him. He marked the spot with his GPS and decided to make his way down and call the authorities. The Lemhi County Sheriff's Office responded, and he led them all the way up to the canyon to the body. It took 4 grown men to push the boulder out of the way, and when they did, they found the skeletal remains of a man. On the body, they found hunting equipment and some personal effects. From a credit card in the wallet, they were able to identify the man. He was a bow hunter that had gone missing almost exactly 53 years beforehand. Vern never wanted to be identified to the public or the missing hunter's family. He didn't want recognition for something like that. To him, it was just one of those bizarre mountain stories. He was happy that the family got closure, even if it was half a century later. The only thing that bothered him was the man leading him up the canyon, and with his strange and sudden disappearance. He had mentioned the waving man to the sheriff, but brushed it off. When the news reports came out announcing the discovery, several photos of the man were published. Vern was absolutely shocked when he saw them. In those photos was the man that he'd seen leading him up the mountain to that body. It all finally made sense to him. The man's distressed look, the constant checking if Vern was following him, the sense of relief he felt when the body was discovered. That man was desperate to get home, and through Vern, he was able to be reunited with his family.
I was in college, female, taking a course of outdoor survival. The course ended with a 3-day, 3-night wilderness solo type of mission. We were allowed to take a backpack, empty canteen, sleeping bag, knife, 6 matches, rope, a sheet of plastic, a change of clothes, extra socks, halazone tablets, small cooking pot, and spoon. We were not allowed to bring any food or water, since part of our training was identifying edibles and finding a water source. Once I was dropped off, I had to hike in and find a spot to set up camp. First, I had to place a flag on a tree near my drop point so that I could be located in 3 days. I was loving life, just me and nature. I had no fears, even as night began to fall. I enjoyed the sound just from the woods all around me and didn't mind not having a tent. I built a small fire and had a great feeling of peace. I slept well that night, but woke up thirsty. My search for a water source began. Happily, I found a muddy stream, let the water settle in my pot, placed the tablets into the water, and boiled it for good measure. It was definitely a crappy taste, but at least I was hydrated. All went well, and I had a great time, until my last day. It was early afternoon on the last day, and time to break camp. I cleaned up my camp area and hiked out to the drop spot. As I sat, leaning against this tree, I heard the sound of a vehicle off in the distance. I figured that it had been my pickup. As I waited, a vehicle that I had never seen before pulled up to the dirt path in front of me. Immediately, I realized that I did not know this man who was driving. He gave me an odd look, and my gut told me that he was bad news. He asked what I was doing there, and if I was alone. I said that my friends were behind me, breaking camp. He gave me a knowing look, got back in his vehicle, and rode off. I was terrified. I knew that I had to hide, and fast. I ran into the woods and hid. As I ran, I heard the same car come back. I stayed as quiet as I could possibly be and remained hidden. I heard him get out of the car. I could hear him calling me and walking through the bush, looking for me. I was honestly afraid. Eventually he gave up, and I heard his car door slam and the engine start and the car pull away. Going back to my drop-off point was not an option anymore, so I began to hike through the woods, hoping I would find a base camp. After walking what felt like hours, I saw a forest ranger. I told him who I was and what had happened to me. He told me that I had done the right thing since a young woman had just been, the night before, and the police and the Forest Service had been searching the area. Happily, he drove me back to my base camp, where I learned that another girl in my class had an extremely creepy encounter with the same man the night before. She had scared him away by blowing a brass whistle until help arrived. If there is anything to be learned from this, It is being sure to always trust your gut feeling and never camp alone. Now, before you leave this video, I want to give a massive thank you and a huge shout out to my good friend, Booze and Booze. Without him helping me with this, it wouldn't have even been even close to as good. Like, let's just face it. He's like, do you guys hear that voice? Okay, let me stop. Make sure to check his channel out. His link will be in the description. If you guys like my stuff, you guys will definitely love his stuff. He's got a lot of content, and it's all very long. And trust me, I binge it sometimes. I'm just being honest. But make sure to go check him out. Tell him that I sent you. And make sure to check out the links in the description as well. His will be in there, and so will mine. Like my Twitter, my Instagram, everything like that. Including my Gmail if you would like to submit a story. Trust me, I would love to do subscriber stories. Make sure to like, comment, and if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. We're doing nothing but growing. And make sure to keep an eye out for the next few videos. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss them. I've got a lot of really good videos coming out. So just wait. Other than that, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Booze. I love you. Before I go, it actually took a ridiculously long time to do this outro.